it's 10:30, so just wait till Martin gets his seat. Thank you very much for coming to this meeting of the Lincolnshire Waste Partnership. Get started with item 1, which is apologies for absence.
No apologies received.
Thank you very much.
Can I just clarify that happening? Yeah, Councillor Smith from North Stephen Dave Steele's both previously to the report.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest? You think of any or you come across any while we're going through it, just make us aware. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of October 2025. Minutes. Yes, Victoria?
There was an update, I think, from South Stephen. I think it says South Holland on it. It should say South Stephen.
She's not taking the credit for it.
Checking.
I need to take the credit because it was a.
Was it a good one?
Yeah.
No, it's
I think we said it about in relation to them winning the best performing waste team. Yeah, so at the bottom of page 5, it should be South Stephen, not South Holland in that bottom.
We did try and claim it for us all. So can that be thank you? We have to have a vote on if everyone thinks they're all right. Proposed, seconded
With that amendment.
with that amendment. All in favour? Very much. That's carried. Item 4, partner updates. We'll start over with South Holland. Are you council doing them individually or is Victoria doing the whole lot?
You're a bit more. Go
Yeah, go for it.
Doing a lot.
on. Sloping shoulders.
That's me, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Before we start, it's nice that South Holland is getting the purple lidded bins and we're in support with that. Good move for the whole of Lincolnshire.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. That's very welcome. The council's obviously put a lot of budget aside to get it in. We've got a huge project plan in place, as you can imagine, working through that now. So all the bins are ordered, getting delivered, vehicles are ordered. So we're all working, to the end of the year start date. We're also we're meeting. Rachel sits on our delivery groups for the project planning side of it, and so working closely with county officers in terms of the actual rollout and the engagement, and like we did with that performance improvement team, working closely with the council's engagement team. So we've just recruited in South Holland to 4 engagement officers to learn about the new system, because it's important that it's such a big change for residents. It's important that we really support that rollout. A huge change for them, the biggest change for the waste service for many years. So important that we're there for residents for any concerns that they have.
Do you want to, because it's such a big piece of work, did you want to bring back a paper to a future meeting about what you've had to do and how you've had to go through it all, changing all going from bags to all being done?
I think if that would be useful.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's all.
Just so that we get an idea of what you've actually had to go.
And so.
Of course, yeah.
And then East Lindsey, same again really. Everything's ordered. We've got delivery dates. Working through that autumn start for food waste, and same for Boston. Same timescales for Boston. So it's all moving through our project planning at the minute. The other piece of work that's happening across all three councils now is all the round reviews. Make sure that those new rounds, as new vehicles come in, that the new rounds are efficient and able to provide the correct level of service. So yeah, a lot going on.
Lindsay. Everything is food waste at this moment in time. It's we are well underway with the delivery of the food waste caddy packs, as we're calling them, and we're over 27,000 as of last night delivered. So we're well over halfway through the district. Yeah. Everything is on plan for week commencing the 30th of March to start collecting. So, like I say, we're in a good place at this minute in time. I don't want to jinx it, but we did give ourselves plenty of flexibility and a buffer just in case things did go shit. Looking good, but we're all looking good at this minute in time. Like I say, we've delivered over 27,000. And that has created 180 telephone calls to customer services, which, in my opinion, is really good. Especially because when we delivered the purple lidded bin service, we was well over 1,000. So the comms from county and ourselves going out on a constant basis is nipping a lot of them in the bud. So it's really good partnerships working. And that's it from us. Thank you.
Back over to South Stephen.
So we're also food waste rollout. But the rollout's going well. We are scheduled to go live on the 13th of April, and we don't anticipate any delays to that. Our staff are recruited and the caddies are currently being delivered. The delivery schedule takes us to the end of March, and we're also putting an online form for residents to request the return of their caddies, but we won't look at doing this till summer because we're getting a lot of people saying, we don't want the caddy, can you take it back? So initially the answer is no, but if you still don't want it after the service goes live, it's something we can look at. Previous experience tells us that they will want to keep it once go live happens, so we're hopeful for that. The only other thing going on at South Stephen at the minute is that we're looking at amending our start times and bank holiday working. And this is to reduce the disruption caused by bank holiday collections, and in the summer the hot weather is disrupting kind of afternoon work. So the proposed changes will amend the start time from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. And operatives will work all bank holidays outside of Christmas, which will keep the current arrangements we have now. This has still got to go through consultation, but we're hopeful that those changes will be in place kind of midsummer. That's everything from South Stephen.
Very much. Stephen, is that you?
That is, yeah. So apologies, David can't attend today, as mentioned. So just to introduce myself, my name is Steve Houchin. I'm the Director of Resources for Stephen and Section 151. So I've been asked to come in instead. So in relation to food waste, so our implementation is proceeding as planned. We're very nearly sort of 80% into our caddy delivery. We've, as of yesterday, delivered 47,000 out of our sort of 58,000 residents. So we expect our caddy delivery to finish the next week or so, all being well. We have noted some issues in relation to the quality. We've had about 10% rejection rate when we put our bins together. But we've had meetings with the contractors and they've gone away with a resolution. We've got sufficient stock to cover the remaining sort of 10, 11,000 to be delivered. So we use what stock we get back as our buffer and our spare stock over the time. Our resources are in place and all vehicles are now in place, including some modifications that we've made in conjunction with the contractors. We've got livery for the vehicles due shortly, and as others, we're due to commence on the 30th of March. We have noted one or two instances where the residents are putting their caddies out already, which is great. We're attaching tags thanking them for their enthusiasm, but just asking them to wait a little while longer. So we put the scheme on fully. But other than that, it's going really well. So from that point of view, we're really happy from our perspective. In other news, work started on our depot expansion earlier this month, although it's had to immediately stop because of ground conditions due to the wet weather. So we're just waiting now for weather to improve, ground to dry, and we'll get that picked up again as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you. City of Lincoln Council.
Thank you, Chair. Probably comes as a surprise to everybody to realise that we're doing something about food waste. It's the big one in town, isn't it? I can keep it really short, really. We start with our rollout on Monday. All our caddies are in, and they're looking to be in good condition, I have to say. So hopefully we haven't got the same pallet problem that you've had. Our staff have all been recruited, trained, and are ready to go. And we're mixing the new ones in with some of the old ones so that they know where the routes are and everything. So we're using that experience. And our vehicles are due to arrive the week before. We've seen them, they're built, we're just waiting to turn up. So everything is on plan, comms plan, everything is working as it should alongside colleagues. So fingers crossed, touch wood, everything should go to plan and it's started working in Lincoln on Monday. The other thing I'd mention is that previously I've mentioned that we've been doing some work around AI with the Lixo system. You might remember something that we're trying to pioneer, really, or we're working on a pioneer version of, which takes photographs as the bins are tipped into the back of the vehicle. It takes photographs of the waste. It then identifies what that waste is in order to give us a contamination score. It's in its infancy. It's still being developed. I'd hoped we'd be a little bit further on than we are with it, but we're pretty close now, to be honest. We're certainly close to establishing a clear baseline. Alongside that, we've been establishing an education/enforcement programme, which portfolio holders happy with. So we are ready to launch that once we've got a clear baseline, and we will launch it in specific streets. So the Lixo system, alongside taking those photographs, assessing that contamination, it gives us a heat map of the city to show where the worst contamination is and the best, and what those materials are in those streets. So we will target our education and our enforcement around those particular streets, those particular materials. So it allows us to do it in a really informed way. And we're hoping, well, if the trial is successful, then we can expand that into further streets. So I'm hoping by the next time we sit there, I can give you some more details on how that's gone and how it's working.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding that? Move on to performance update.
It's you, Chris. Do you want me to do our update?
Oh, sorry.
Me,
We
Danny.
do our update first.
Okay, so since the previous partnership meeting, our contracted materials recycling facility has suffered a major fire event, and the investigation into this is still ongoing with the Environment Agency and the fire service. The materials recycling facility line has been completely destroyed, and therefore Mid-UK, our contractor, have enacted their business continuity plan, working well so far. We had no adverse effect on our operations, so we're continuing as business as usual. We continue to work closely with Mid-UK to mitigate any potential risks to our service. And to further manage this, our commercial team brought forward our re-procurement process by 6 months, and we've already conducted pre-market engagement with over 10 suppliers. Also, in the same period, we've had 2 outages at the Energy from Waste facility. However, again, we've managed to manage them effectively, and again, there's been no adverse effect on our operation, and all the issues there have been now been resolved. Nationally, there's been quite a bit of volatility within the waste industry, and specifically some contractors have entered into administration or have withdrawn their services, and this has affected us at our household waste recycling centres, particularly the supplier around the waste electrical producer compliance scheme. They went into administration, so this caused some disruption in sort of the November period, H3RCs. However, we've got the new contractor in place and we're resuming operation now. In addition, the Salvation Army withdrew all their textile collections nationally from household waste recycling centres, and it's affected us in Lincolnshire. Fortunately, we were given a bit of notice, so we've been able to source a new supplier, and they've been on a trial basis, and that seems to be running okay at the moment.
Lastly, from me, the feedback survey for our household waste recycling centres closed on Christmas Eve. We had over 2,000 responses. We're now analysing these to get some more detail out of that. We're hoping to utilise this information to understand how we can improve our operations and facilities. To support this, our administration are proposing to set aside some capital funding for this in the latest full council budget.
Much. So again, any questions or comments on that? I'll go on, councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair. Just regarding the household waste recycling centres, several residents got in touch with me. I filled in the survey myself, but several have got in touch with me to say that they found the questions quite leading and there was no way of mentioning opening hours and opening 7 days, and they found that frustrating. So just passing on them comments, really.
Yeah, we had a bit of feedback from that on social medias. There was a question and answer section that was open, so people could fill in that to reflect that. However, we did go out with a social messaging message that the reason why we haven't asked particularly about options to extend opening days is because it's not currently in our gift within our budget to offer that. So to provide that would almost be a sense of false hope to our residents. We didn't want to put that them in that position.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to follow on actually, and you've kind of answered the question already, but I take a cheeky punt. Obviously, South Holland is going from bags to bins, which is a massive change for everybody that's in this room. It's the biggest change. So similarly, there is great concern within South Holland among some of the councillors and also residents about the change from bags to bins and the availability of the household recycling centre installing. So just make that point in this forum. But I accept what you've said around opening times, budget, etc. But opportunity to make points on that.
Very much. Any further? No? Thank you very much. We'll move on to Rachel now.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, the paper that I have in the pack here is the performance report and shows data relating to performance of the partnership up to and including the end of Q3 25-26, so up to the end of December figures. The main headlines in the report in terms of the waste streams are that we have seen a significant drop off again in tonnage of green waste this quarter compared with same quarter in 24-25, so 918 tonnes less. Green waste is a large contributor to the recycling rate and therefore it has a reducing impact on that. It is, however, similar to the same sort of reduction we saw because of the weather this time last year. The second point to note in general is around the volume of waste being captured from each household, which continues to decrease, which is a positive step when we're looking through the waste hierarchy and waste minimisation. The target at the end of Q3, it's a 1,000 kilogram target a year. At the end of Q3, the target would be 780 kilograms per household, and actual performance to the end of Q3 was only 696 kilograms. So that's a really positive. And again, compare that to the same time last year, we were at 737 kilograms. So a really positive message. Again, that drop off is probably highly attributed to the reduction in garden and green waste, however. So we are in the hands of the weather, unfortunately. There are some charts in the report. So just to give you a bit of a run through them. Chart number 1, which is on page 9, looks about the overall performance in terms of recycling rates. The green line shows the target. You'll see that in the current year, that was increased from 50% sat for a number of years up to 55%, and that was in line with national targets for the recycling rate. The yellow line on there shows us the end of year forecast around it. It will be slightly up if everything goes to plan on the recycling rate as was last year. The purple then is the target kilograms per household, and again, forecasting in the year. I think that the axis makes it look probably a lot better than it is, but we're looking at just over 900 kilograms per household, which is a real positive step in terms of that waste minimisation. I think is attributable as well as to the reduction in green, but also to the work that everybody around this table is doing to try and get people to do the right thing with their waste. The second chart is the contribution of curbside dry recyclables into the recycling rate. Again, it's the contribution to that overall recycling rate as opposed to the volumes. The yellow line is the end of year forecast, which sits, I want to make my screen a little bit bigger. That one need to get some better glasses. Yeah, bigger text. So forecasting there that 15% of the recycling rate will be attributable to curbside recyclables at the end of year. What you'll see in the colour blocks is the purple relates to the paper and card, the green relates to the target mixed dry recyclables, so the right things in our recycling bins, the yellow to other other recyclable materials which aren't classed as target materials, although they can be recycled somewhere along the line. And the red block is the non-recyclable. So this is the contamination that we have within there. And you'll see that there's a quite significant decrease in that, which continues to be as a result of the communications, the engagement and the right thing, right bin. So the makeup of that recycling, and I'll talk about quality in a little bit, is a very positive message that we're now getting better quality, although the quality doesn't affect the recycling rate. Chart number 3, again, it tells us the story around composting. You'll see that drop off in terms of the volume of green waste. It's a little bit outside of our control, unfortunately, but it is a significant contributor towards the recycling rate that we can't do a lot about, but it shows the prediction. And chart number 4 then shows you the breakdown of the forecast of the waste composition by household. So there's a very small amount at the bottom, which is hardly seeable, I think, in red, which is the amount that goes to landfill. And really positive news in that we've not only decreased the target for landfill, which was 5%, it's now 2.5% of all household waste, but we're performing at well under 0.5% forecast to go into landfill for this year, which is an amazing achievement. The yellow part of the bar represents the kilograms per household forecast into residual, so non-recyclable waste. Again, you'll note that is probably lower than it's been for a number of years and down on last year. The paper and card in the purple and the blue, which is the other recyclate within there. Sorry, the curbside recycling, the purple and the blue, sorry, are the recycling streams combined, which again, you'll see that's an increase on the percentage and the composition than previous years, and the green is garden. But all told, it's moving in the right direction in terms of there. And I think the positive move is to see the non-recyclable waste going down, which we'll continue to do. I've mentioned around landfill already. I think the other important thing to note is whilst the volume of recycling contributes towards the recycling rate, we've worked very hard to look at our contamination rates and bring those down. So we are on forecast at the moment for, and I apologise because the dates on the bottom of there aren't correct on chart 5, so I'll have those updated for you. But we are going to be performing somewhere in the region of around about 10.5% of contamination in all our recycling. That's across the county. We'll be looking to switch that into the new financial year so that we report it as quality. So it'll be over 90% quality material. And we're proposing that as a new performance indicator going forward. We'll continue to work on that. And I think when we see, certainly in the second half of next financial year, when South Holland do implement their wheel bins as well, and we do that in terms of the right thing, right bin campaign, that will again help us to improve that quality. And it's something that we should be focusing on. So all told, aside from the fact of the factors we can't affect in terms of green waste and the like, I think we're performing pretty well. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Rachel, does anyone have any questions? Yep, Karen.
Couple of questions. Well, the first one's more of a comment, really. Obviously, Boston Borough Council, we're going into a 12-month service with the garden waste from next year, but that might increase, obviously, the collection and so on and so forth. And then just secondly, what do we send to landfill, please?
So the materials that go to landfill are either our items that potentially come from fly tips that are hazardous that we don't have anywhere else to send, or a very small amount that we would put through for mattresses if we haven't had anywhere else to send those to. That's again market dependent. Recycling of mattresses is a very difficult market to find an off taker. and a small amount should we not have capacity if the energy from waste goes into unplanned outage of curbside material. But it's very minimal what we're putting through there now. We've been sourcing alternative energy from waste provision for those instances wherever possible.
Quite a positive message, really, isn't it? So,
Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Just a comment. I think we just let that pass. The fact the contamination is down to the level it's at is phenomenal. For years we've sat here trying to sort this problem out and thinking nothing can be done about it. And to get it where it is now, that's outstanding.
Whilst we are, as Chris said in his update, currently looking now at the re-procurement of the mixed dry recycling contract, as we look at that and we've started to engage with the market, it's been seen as a very big positive.
Nationally, we're bucking the trend because nationally contamination rate is actually creeping up. You know, on average, it's about 30%, isn't it? But we're going in the opposite direction. So in Lincolnshire, that's a big success story.
Yeah, Victoria.
So to comms piece, because I think now the comms are starting to go out more around food waste, and certainly as we start to move forward, particularly South Holland, those messages will be back on social media around. It's all going to landfill, it's all going to landfill, because I still think that message isn't getting out there. So I would know, for our comms to really make sure we push that message too.
So I was just going to say, next week, on Wednesday, the BBC are running a National Day of Rubbish, or Bin Day, National Bin Day. When we spoke to them, we actually have taken that message, and we've promoted, we asked them if we could do a piece on residual waste. So we've actually taken them to the energy from waste. That's where they've reported from, and we've said, please, everybody says it goes to landfill, can we do this? So yeah, they've been out to the curbside, they've recorded that, and we took them to the energy from waste and are picking up that message because it was just an ideal platform to be able to get that across.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Rachel. 6, food waste update. There's a surprise.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think we've covered it already, and as I think we're heading in a good direction. So we'll continue in as a partnership to make good progress towards the segregated food waste collection as we go live scheduled for West Lindsey, City of Lincoln, North Casteven and South Casteven from March and April, and as detailed in the available updates. Waste collection authorities are now distributing or about to distribute carriers, liners and leaflets in their areas, as well as more specific facilities for flats and communal properties. East Lindsey, Boston Borough and South Holland are still scheduled to go toward the end of 2026. Our waste transfer station infrastructure adaptations are progressing on time and on plan and on budget. We've completed works at Grantham and Boston. Sleaford is currently in construction and will be ready for March. The site at Lincoln that we've got at South Icombe, the works are on the way as well, so they will also be ready for March. And then we'll be moving on to Louth and Gainsborough from April. Emma's just going to do a short update on the communications campaign that we've been running.
Yeah, so in summary, the update in the report covers the full strategic communications programme supporting the rollout of food waste across Lincolnshire so far. At a county level, I've led the development of a single communications plan that aligns all districts under one framework with shared key messages, myth-busting themes and a phased approach linked to delivery schedules. That's to ensure residents receive consistent, accurate information wherever they live. I've coordinated closely with the district communications and waste teams to review materials, align local plans and prevent inconsistencies during the staggered rollout. We've delivered a major campaign programme, including the radio advertising and external digital campaigns, generating strong engagement and click-through rates, reaching just over 400,000 people, as well as rubbish animation series, process videos and content through our own channels, with just over 142,000 engagement and 1.4 million views of our content. Much of this has also been recognised nationally. Alongside this, I've overseen extensive printed and digital assets supporting media relations school engagement, community outreach, and district-specific rollout communications. Overall, this approach has provided a single trusted communications lead, prevented fragmented messaging, proactively addressed misinformation, and embedded engagement alongside operational delivery.
So, Emma, and then, yeah, just to conclude the rest from the update report, the pack on page 19 highlights the roadmap, which we've been keeping live, so you can see the progress that the partnership has made, and then the major milestones that we've still got to achieve. And then lastly, at the previous partnership meeting, it was discussed and agreed we would write to both MHCLG and DEFRA to express the concerns and uncertainties faced by waste collection authorities with regards to the lack of clarity over the continuing new burdens funding for ongoing food waste collections. We've had a return from DEFRA, which can be reviewed and seen on page 25. That's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Richard?
Yeah, there's only a question, and the comments have been good. I think the message has got out there. And I did wonder if at any stage there was a chance to swivel any of it round just for a while on a particular, because people are saying, oh, I don't like food waste, blah, blah. And I'm saying, oh, great, you're fantastic then, you know, just keep your bin for now. But the reality is we know that nationally up to 30% of residual waste is food waste. So I think we've said about what we can put in it and when it's going to be done, blah, blah, all the rest of it, that's great. But in a time when we still have food banks, in a time when we still have food support services, the fact that up to 30% of residual waste is food, I did think there was perhaps a bit of comms if you go that way, just to, and say this is about people learning to live differently as well.
Yeah.
Because why are we providing food out to people and then finding out half our bins are third full with food waste, So there's a bit of a story there. I thought that even for a limited amount of time, we could run that.
It's like that in there's a lot of food hate waste action week coming up in March. So a lot of that covers that sort of area as well.
I think the introduction of the service as well will draw people naturally to, when they put in a loaf of bread each week, it will almost make people realise that maybe I don't need to buy as much as I do. So I think that communications message can be sewn together quite nicely.
We started tailoring some of the messaging now around the non-edible food waste. So like your eggshells and your tea bags, that sort of waste, rather than your takeaway things and your outdate food in the fridge.
Councillor Baker?
Thank you, Chair. We were having a conversation before we all started off, so just want to give sort of space for that for the councillors who weren't in. Huge amount of work has happened on the communications. There is, I understand, a difference between the communications on this that have been organically shared by residents compared to communications directly shared with a branded logo of one of our councils or from a councillor's own social media. So I just wondered if you could give an update or a summary on the difference that, because in the goldfish bowl of the algorithm for social media, it can feel like everybody absolutely loathes it because that's all the algorithm is feeding you. And I want us all equipped to go back to our members to tell them that that isn't necessarily the case.
What we've seen when we're posting from council channels, we're seeing a lot of backlash, a lot of negativity. People don't have food waste, people don't want to take part. What we've seen is when it's shared, especially on Facebook, into groups. So you've got your Heckington Village group, etc. There's a lot more support for the service in the groups. So I think it's the residents leading by example in those groups. And we see as a council that we're out there and we're putting the message out and we're asking people to change the way they're presenting their waste. And that's where we're getting that backlash. But from people posting in the groups, and then if there's any negativity in those groups, they're soon shut down, and people then are starting to support things.
Yeah, I think the other thing that it's really important to note is the fact that there are 350,000 households in Lincolnshire, over 350,000 households. We are seeing 200 or 300 comments, and some of those that are being replied are replies from the authority. So I think that was a lesson that we learned when we did the twin stream and the purple lidded bins. We will have this initial, I don't want it, I'm doing your job for you, and I'm not going to do it. And actually then, once it becomes business as usual, it will stacker off a little bit. Not to say that we shouldn't pick up on some of these, these points that are made and turn them into a proactive message. But I think we need to be really mindful that we see 200 comments on one post of somebody getting really, really angry. There are over 350,000 households in Lincolnshire, so context of it is really important. We don't need another video yet, but we might hold you to that one come the first week of April, just saying. We know where you are.
Reece, yeah. I don't know, we've got down. You want first?
I think the problem again with comms is LCC is obviously classed as a higher level authority, and it looks as if it's the higher level looking down on us. So I think if the message goes from the lower level at the parish council, that sort of level, that brings on board the local people and the communities a lot quicker, I think, than it's all good stuff. I mean, it's coming out there, but I think you just have to be aware that there are some people who will just balk because it's the county council, not because it's good or bad or anything indifferent. It's just the fact that it looks as if it's coming from, oh, you're wasting our money. Well, we all know it doesn't, but it's just getting that message to that lower tier.
I would agree with that one. Yeah.
And when you go out and you do your parish events, then we can come along and we can support that as well.
It's accepted well at parish meetings, and I've already taken out caddies and given an example of what they're going to be and how they're going to be operated. And it is well received, with local communities and parish councils. But like I said, it's just these keyboard warriors just want to bash it. People like.
Yeah, share your concerns as well. I mean, in South Holland, since we reignited the debate about bags and bins in Cabinet on Tuesday night, I'm now probably the most hated councillor in South Holland, which is fine because I've got thick skin. I don't look at social media much now anyway. But I think taking on from the point that Emma made and the point that Ian made as well, South Holland is a bit different because you guys have already got bins. The negativity in South Holland isn't about food waste. It's about the whole concept of the change from a bag to a bin. So there is a lot of negativity around. I'm not seeing any positivity about bags, about bins, because that all came in the first wave when we made the cabinet decision last year. All I'm seeing now is more negativity on the switch because we've now passed the policies that say you could put out 20 tons of waste and we collect it. Now you can't. So it's that whole debate. But I think a few points that Emma made and Ian made as well, that, because we're going through that massive change, there's an opportunity for, particularly in South Holland and through your comms guys, to be joined up when we present, because, there's a golden opportunity for us to present our bags to bins bit alongside the food waste bit as well and get that one message out there at the same.
Yes.
I need to, Vic won't thank me for this, but I need to introduce you to a new concept of Rubbish Rascal, which is a cartoon character that's been invented for South Holland. It's not sound off yet.
I look forward to seeing that.
I'll show you afterwards.
Well, no, I think that's a really good point, and I think we're between ourselves and Vic and the officers at South Holland, we want to ensure there is that golden thread between county and district, and we work in partnership because we know as a county how big this is for South Holland, and through the investment that we're also making with the twin stream bins, we want to see it as a success because it has such a significant knock on for the quality of our recycling, the potential increase in the recycling rate, and the reduction of residual waste to the energy from waste, and the potential implications that has with stuff like the emissions trading scheme that may hit us in a couple of years' time. So it's really important for us, the county, to be involved with you at South Holland.
We are very grateful for the news on the bins, so thank you for that. The recycling bins, the purple ones. Thank you.
Councillor Butler?
Just a quick question, really. The video, the cartoon, who was that created in-house or externally?
External. Before rubbish removal.
Yeah, with the bags in that talk in the thing.
Yes.
Because I think obviously you've got that, and now we've obviously got the rubbish rascal. I think we're missing a trick with CBBT.
Like I'm watching in the morning. They've been really well received, and we're just waiting for the final draft of the fourth one. We're also using those now as part of our schools engagement programme as well. But you know, they resonate at all ages, to be fair, and they've in fact been approached by some of the national waste organisations. I had an approach from LARAC the other day saying they were outstanding and a great way to get the message over, etc., etc. So just trying to think outside the box sort of, and to also create something that isn't just for the launch of food waste, because we'll be able to keep bringing those out, because it will be an ongoing. Comms isn't, let's tell you now we're rolling out, that's great, lovely. It's now going to be about that behaviour change. It's about how do we go from 27% food waste in the residual bins to 15% to 10%. How do we keep picking away at that? And these are things that we're trying to get some longevity out of them as well. So.
Grace, just move on to slightly less happy news. I think the CB's plan should be recognized by this body. I'm repeating a refrain here, colleagues. The letter that we received from government, I think, is patronising in the extreme. I know that's part of the course, but I just want it on the record, really. The fact that we very explicitly ask about how are we going to fund this new service? We're 6 months out, we don't have the information, and then to be told triumphantly about homelessness funding. I think it is a spectacular level of financial gaslighting. Anything that we can do to help the homeless, fantastic. £2.4 billion, brilliant. I asked you about food waste, and to be told that actually we don't need to talk to you about any emergency funding, we're going to package it all into a new way of organising how councils are funded without the transparency that we'd explicitly asked for, so that we can check whether or not you're fulfilling the promise, Mr. Government, Mrs. Government and his government, of paying every pound of this process. And if you're going to sit there and say, we are going to fully fund this for your councils because we believe this is a good and right and proper thing to do, and then obfuscate it in such a dense and difficult new set of reporting procedures, I think it is answering neither the letter nor the spirit of the words. Thank you very much to officers for putting that request in at our request. I do value that. I think it's right and important that we put it in, but I am, not for the first time, probably not the last, deeply disappointed with the de facto contempt we've been treated with.
Very much. Yeah, Councillor Bean.
Just to go back on Councillor Aston's point about people complaining that now getting weird with it and doing the changeover. Not all negative. I did get an email from a South Holland resident who was complaining that they felt they'd been left out, and why hadn't they got wheelie bins? So I did answer him and assured him that, you know, change is coming. Change is coming. So it's not all negative. Some people are actually in favour of it.
We need positive people to speak up as well, to drown out. Or at least one fan.
Well, I'm so steady. I'm not sure that I go that. You're just looking at a different.
So every time I'm in London and I'm meeting, I rejoice in seeing Lord Porter.
Yes.
That's the
Victoria.
Sorry, just to make the point, because Emma, you gave a round of what was going on, but just to make the point that there's been an awful lot going on with the radio adverts and that kind of thing. Brilliant stuff. In the 3 councils that I represent, that will be coming. So it's not finished. It's not finished now. So it will all start again. So there'll be another sway, won't there, of contact, and the message changes slightly to adapt to reach. Yeah, so the reach will actually be a lot further. Yeah. Than your report.
I mean, I think we've all got a lot of, we're getting a lot of email and hassle about food waste. I can imagine South Holland changing from bags to bins again.
We've all been through it.
Yeah, keep going.
What thick skin?
I'll tell you how to do a video afterwards.
Turn to a production studio.
My infamous, there's my infamous now keyboard warriors. Nothing else.
Any further questions?
Can I just say, I'll happily endorse what Councillor Baker said. The tone of that letter back to us addressed nothing of the question that you'd asked.
When Kate's done a regulatory update, I'm going to do something about the meeting was in DEFRA to explain a bit further about what happened with that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
It is now over to you, Kate.
So this report provides an update on relevant legislative and regulatory changes since the last update was provided back in June 2025. The primary areas of focus in this period have been the increasing emphasis on the deposit return scheme and the introduction of plastic bags and wrapping collections by the 31st of March 2027, which is part of the simpler recycling changes. And this was originally coined soft plastics, but we're softening it to soft plastics and wrappings, but we are softening it to changing the language, sorry, to plastic bags and wrappings, which we all keep forgetting. So bear with us on that one. But the DRS will be rolled out across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and it has been confirmed by DEFRA that all 4 nations will start the scheme in October 27, and further updates will be provided as this progresses over coming months. However, at the time of publication of this report, which was last week, there were no further updates on DRS. I believe there's been some small updates since then, but nothing major. With reference to simpler recycling, this paper also recommends that LWP delegate authority to Strategic Officers Waste Group to establish a working model for the delivery of the plastic bags and wrapping service. So again, since the publication of this paper, the Strategic Officers Waste Group have met and discussed methods for collecting plastic bags and wrappings. The group agreed that asking residents to store this waste in a plastic bag and present it with their dry mixed recycling is the best collection method, as it allows the waste to be easily sorted at the recycling facility. Based on this, the Strategic Officers Group would like to bring the proposed collection method to LWP for discussion, and pending the input of the partnership, move forward with establishing a working model for curbside collection of plastic bags and wrappings over the coming months. Over to you.
Are you willing to take any questions? Do anybody have any questions? That is it then.
Right, I was actually just, I was talking to Chris about the fact that now find with my district council network, I find myself in meetings where we're accessing people in DEFRA and DESNEDs that real struggle to get. And so there's been a couple of meetings, one before Christmas and one after, that are pertinent towards here. One of them is just on what Kate's talking about there. So across the moment, there's an application planning application into the county for a plant at Sleaford for Clean Planet that will actually use pyrolysis to break down soft plastics into synthetic oil. Which seems to come as a surprise to the DEFRA minister that type of thing was actually now in existence in this country, because there's one that's going through commissions, and this will be the second of 5 across the country. And I understand the Clean Planet have already spoken to me in the UK about how they'd separate the plastic out. Would sort of suggest that maybe we don't need to do what this is doing, because they've already come up with a way of doing it that might not need us to get the residents to do this separately. Hopefully, yeah. So like it shows us that policies all over the place. Now, if I go back to Reese's point, then in December there was a meeting at DEFRA, and Mary Craig, the minister, was meant to be chairing the meeting, and she was delayed in the House. It was handed over to somebody, I won't name in this meeting, somebody that's in charge of circular economy at DEFRA. And DEFRA seems to be broken into lots of different silos that don't talk to each other or don't understand what we actually do on the ground. And of course, the big subject matter we're talking about was new burdens payments. And the fact that we have been told it was a new burden, then according to previous new burden doctrine, then the department responsible for introducing the new burden has to show on the budget line the fact that they've fully compensated us or fully paying for the new burden. I think the best way to describe the meeting was probably open warfare. My first meeting in Marsham House, and I thought, bloody hell, this is what the meetings are like. I can get into this one. You know, it was lots of different waste authorities, so London Waste Authority, Manchester Waste Authority, DCA, there are different people there. And we were all of the same voice saying government not being open and transparent with regards to the new burdens payment. And basically we were told tough. That was the DEFRA line. And we said, well, you know, I reported that, bearing in mind DCN represents 164 district councils and 5 unitaries, that they have not yet heard the last of the authorities that may turn around and say they couldn't deliver the scheme because they'd spent all their spare reserves on capital for vehicles, and if they didn't know what the revenue cost was going to be, then they couldn't commit to doing it. To which point I was basically told, well, we'll find other ways of dealing with that. So I think it's the first time I've ever asked an officer if they were threatening me in a meeting, because that's what I came across, you know, and other people perceived it the same way. Mary Craig came into the meeting later, and we again repeated some of these concerns. And Mary Craig actually said, I don't see any reason why you can't be told exactly how much money you're getting. So therefore it's Treasury. It's obvious that it's Treasury, because if the DEFRA minister says, I don't see why you can't be told, and then we continue to be told that it's just wrapped up in the general settlement, then it's clear. And even though I pointed out, I said, look, you've got to be fair about this. I said, if you're not prepared to tell us, then it's going to be human nature for us to assume there's a reason why you don't want to tell us. It's not going to be because it's such good news, you dare tell us. And so there's got to be another reason for it, to which the minister agreed. But obviously, she's been overridden, I would suggest, either by Treasury or higher. And so it doesn't matter, to be blunt now, it doesn't matter how many times we ask about it, they're just not going to tell us. They say from now on that the new direction for new burdens, if there are any more, is basically the same. They'll just put a new burden on us, tell us they're paying for it, and they'll wrap it up in general settlement. For those of us that were affected, as we know, general settlement actually meant we lost money this year. So not a great position to be in. So the replies that we've got, they'll just be the same bland replies. I suggest it's now just, it's just going up against a brick wall trying to find anything out about it. Government will not tell us they've done or why they've done it. Simple as that. Meeting did throw some other things up there. One of them was on DRS, the deposit return scheme. They had an industry expert there, so obviously it's a very laughable meeting when we tried to question on how this was going to work. You know, very simple things is what is the reason for it? If one of them is about carbon reduction, then fantastic. We're going to let anybody be a collection point, and they're not going to have a standardised vehicle fleet. So therefore, we could have loads of vans zipping around anywhere to every corner shop, to everybody that actually sells, and they can then become a collection point. And would they like to work out the carbon footprint for all those vehicles? Which the minister said, that's a good point.
Will be electric.
I just covered that one off. I said, if I could just tell you that my district is 56 square miles, that's just my district. I said, please don't tell me they're going to be electric vehicles picking these plastic bottles and cans up. And then to make matters worse, be very careful about what I say, because I do not want to be misreported on this. I said, but bearing in mind, a protected characteristic is age. So a very fresh-faced gentleman said to me, it wasn't all bad news, that it was good news, that if we all started collecting the cans and the bottles, then obviously there'd be less street cleaning to do. So I invited him to potentially actually go and look how the job's done and realise that, for instance, if you've got a road sweeper that operates by postcodes or streets or whatever, or cycles, that basically we're not going to stop putting those out there just because there may possibly be a few less cans and bottles, but there'll still be the rest of the detritus that has to be swept up, and it'll have no effect whatsoever on the cost of us running our street cleaning fleets. He did thank me after the meeting for showing him that he ought to get out of the office more and have a look at what the policy. I did advise him that he didn't ought to go out and explain to anybody outside of that room that that's what he was thinking, because he might find some people that are even less rude than me to explain it to him. So this is just to give you a flavour of what's going on at DEFRA, you know, when we think this is good policy that's being written. After Christmas, there was a meeting again because there's a big concern now, and that's about ETS, and that's the emission trading scheme. Now, for collection authorities, it's not our concern, but we are all at some stage, somehow through LGR, going to become collection and stages. This is for disposal, and this is for those areas that have got energy from waste plants. Now, laughingly, ETS is about getting producers to change the way they do things by fining local authorities. because we pointed out to the minister that the cost that we've worked out, so the piece of work was done by the LJ, the Local Government Association, by County Councils Network and by the District Councils Network. And we've calculated between us that the cost in 2028 will be 700, is that roughly about £770 million to local government, rising to £1.1 billion by 2031. And that is meant to get producers to change the way they do things so we have less to get rid of. So we have pointed out that's rather a weird way of looking at things. Mary Craig did come straight back. Desmond kept very quiet on this, but DEFRA came back and said, that's not the figure my officials have given me. At which point we said, well, we don't believe your officials. Two of them were sat at the back of the room. So allegedly, they're going to go back and look at their figures because she was told it was several £100 million less than that. I would say, no matter how many £1 million less it was, that's still a ridiculous amount of money. That they're going to come back with some kind of clarity on this allegedly over what DEFRA think the figure is. But I would say, we need to be all aware of this because this is going to come in as we go into LGR. This is a phenomenal cost on local government, which frankly shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be paying that money. And so there's some ongoing work to do with that. Now, the one I thought I'd leave till last was this one is so comical that we were talking about what now goes into residual, what's the problems and what's the last bit that we need to try and get rid of, and especially when we're talking about plastics and that coming up, the various issues associated with that. One thing that was identified was disposable nappies. And a conversation ensued from this that said one of the big problems now is that the market has now lent itself to youngsters being kept in nappies for much longer. And it's even been reported that some turning up to school and preschool up to the age of 4 in nappies. And these are adding to the burden in bins. To which point the Minister for DEFRA turned around and said, well, as far as getting children out of nappies are concerned, I consider that a council and the council leaders' problem to resolve. At which point we all sat there after looking at each other rather blankly, thinking, how are we going to write our nappy policies? That ended the lesson for me.
Thank you very much for that.
That's the higher tier responsibility.
It's a disposal. Exactly, disposal authority, yes.
Thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any comments or questions on what Richard? Yes, Victoria?
Just a few burdens because the soft plastic packaging,
Plastic bags and wrappings.
that's a new burden, isn't it? So that's coming in now as well. So it's already started. The non-payment.
They're just not interested. I say, you will know how government works. You know that behind every department of treasury sat. Nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to. It's comical. If it wasn't so sad, it would be comical. And all we can do is keep battering away and so all the different representative organisations. And of course, where they've got singular wasteful authorities around the country, they are really banging on the door on this. And some of them, this is where the politics come in. Some of them are the same political colour of the size who are reporting these on. So there's a bit of movement there in that they keep lobbying for change. But it's so difficult because it's just considered to be our problem that they think they've already paid for.
Very much. Chris?
Just to add on the emissions trading scheme, we did talk about bringing a paper to this committee to go through it in a bit more detail. However, as you said, we're still waiting for DESNZ to provide the response to the consultation, which they did in 2024, which will then determine how the actual ETS is going to be implemented. So at this stage, we are sort of hanging on as officers because we don't have the information to be able to sort of put that data in to see the impact that it will have on our facility at North Icombe. We've done some early level, sort of high level estimates on potential costs and stuff around the existing carbon prices, and it's a significant number, like you've suggested. So yeah, we're still waiting for DESNZ to provide that information. It was meant to be in the summer of 2025, then it was autumn, and we've not heard anything since.
There is no date on final policy. Often it seems to be put together. They don't even understand how energy from waste plants work. So I was explaining about when you take pour your food waste out, the plastics actually raise your calorific value, and so until we take soft plastics out, we're having to buy all sources to put in to compensate. But I think I'm not meant to know details on it.
I think what I take away from this is it just underlines the problem we've got with people in positions of power writing policy who've got no actual real world experience and really don't understand what they're writing these things about. And this is something that I've seen through my entire working life of prison service before this. And it was the same problem in there. People making decisions, writing policies, they don't know what they're talking about.
Thank you very much. Item 8.
Sorry,
Lincolnshire
Chair.
Waste Partnership. Sorry, Rich.
To recommend that the delegates will follow up for a working model. The recommendation at the end.
Yeah, we'll have a vote on that then. Are you vote over that? Do we have a seconder? All in favour? Very much. That reads.
No problem.
We'll now move on to item 8, Lincolnshire Waste Partnership Forward Plan. We'll have a look at the forward plan. Do you think it's
I think it's similar items to what we've had at this one. So it's for the next meeting, we've got the partner updates, performance update, food waste update, and the regulatory updates. If we hear anything more about DRS or ETS, then we can include that potentially within that paper. I think Danny, you suggested about the South Holland paper. So as officers, we'll take that away and look at an appropriate date to pencil that one in.
Any further comments on the, Councillor Butler?
Just to ask really, obviously to go back to my previous point earlier, can the household waste recycling centre, the survey that's been done, could that potentially come with the results in its own separate thing so that we can discuss it?
Yes, yeah, we'll program that in.
That one in? I think we're still going through the information that they've got in that life.
Yeah, we've got some good analysis to do on that because we're able to split it down to sort of site by site basis. And
Yeah, when it's good and ready, don't rush it.
yeah, we'll obviously, we'll make sure it comes to this partnership meeting.
There was over 2,000 replies. I think some things get about 500. I think it's very well to get that amount.
Yeah, there was some real good engagement.
But we've done the food waste.
Any further questions on the forward plan? Then brings us to a close. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. That's the end of the meeting. Just over an hour. So very quick. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for this.
Yeah.